Hello, everyone, and welcome to my Facebook Live event. I'm U.S. Representative Rick Larsen, and I want to welcome folks to today's Facebook Live event. My guest today is San Juan County Councilmember Jamie Stevens. Jamie, it's great to have you here online with us for today's discussion.
Thank you for the invite.
No problem at all. Yeah, in a few moments, I'm going to ask you to say a few words, give us an update on San Juan County, but I want to start this Facebook Live with the latest update on the American Rescue Plan, which President Biden signed into law in March, and now we're in the full throes of implementing the American Rescue Plan. As well, before I get started, please, if you have any questions, you can enter them in the comments section, and then Jamie and I will have a chance to answer some questions that come through. I also have a few questions for the council member. But just to start, we're about 15 months now into the pandemic, and Washingtonians are still hurting. But I would say that the economy is emerging, but not yet emerged. And the pandemic seems to be receding, but not yet receded. And we know that in the past, we've seen the pandemic come back in 3 or 4 different waves. So we still really need to stay on top of things. And the American Rescue Plan is helping us do that. First thing I want to note about the American Rescue Plan is putting shots in arms. Just about 3 months ago, roughly 1,100 people in San Juan County had received at least the first dose of COVID-19 vaccine. But thanks to the Rescue Plan and the President's executive actions and the hard work of healthcare professionals, more vaccine shots are getting into arms. And right now, I understand nearly two out of three eligible residents in San Juan County, about 65% have received at least the first dose of the vaccine. So the best vaccination rate in this great state of Washington. Congratulations on that. Again, still a ways to go. In February, I had a chance to visit one of the vaccine clinics at the Friday Harbor Fairgrounds to thank staff and to thank volunteers as well for their hard work. I want to thank the Washington State National Guard troops recently for continuing to help vaccinate folks in San Juan County and across the state. And just a note on that, getting shots in arms, everyone 16 and older is eligible for a vaccine in Washington State. So to find a vaccine appointment, go to vaccinelocator.doh.wa.gov. The rescue plan also put money in people's pockets. The most recent economic impact payment or stimulus checks, as some people call them, were delivered by deposit or by mail to help people pay for household expenses. 80% of all adults and 77% of all children in the state will receive an EIP, including checks for mixed status households and for adult dependents. In addition, we passed the December aid package that had $600 checks in it, with the $1,400 checks in the American Rescue Plan that fulfills the promise of total relief, direct relief of $2,000. We're trying to put people back to work as well, and that includes the women and men who provide important public services in our local governments. And I've asked Jamie on today to describe a lot of things, but one of the things is to hear how San Juan County is approaching the use of the aid dollars that are coming from the American Rescue Plan. San Juan County government is due to receive about $3.4 million. The city of Friday Harbor itself, about $560,000. So there is aid on its way as well to local governments. So more shots in arms, money in people's pockets, helping turn the economy around, aid for government services as well. There's still a long way to go on the recovery, but help is indeed on the way to San Juan County and to Northwest Washington. A reporter recently pointed out that President Biden used the word jobs most frequently, in fact, 43 times in his joint address to Congress this week. And creating well-paying jobs will continue to be a focus of mine in this Congress. Previously, the president has introduced his American Jobs Plan, which invests heavily in infrastructure in Washington State and across the country. And so I am calling for an FDR-like investment in the nation's infrastructure to create well-paying jobs, to drive economic recovery, and to help us build a cleaner and greener U.S. transportation system. So there's a lot more work to do, especially in the American Jobs Plan as we move forward, but staying on top of the pandemic is pretty critical. Before I turn it over to Jamie, just one thing about the pandemic and the economy. The light at the end of the tunnel is real, I think, on the recovery. I think it is no longer a oncoming freight train. It is actually light, true light at the end of the tunnel, but we're not through it yet. And I just want to ask everybody to, again, get vaccinated if it's your turn, if you can, and wear a mask and practice good social distancing. With that, I want to again welcome Councilmember Jamie Stevens of the San Juan County Council. And Jamie, I turn it over to you for a few moments. Jamie.
Thank you, Rick, for inviting me to participate in your virtual town hall type of meeting. And I'm here in my kitchen where during the pandemic, you've been in the kitchen, but during the pandemic, many people have been introduced to my kitchen, and it seems like a good place to talk about these type of issues because a lot of discussion goes on in the kitchen and a lot of sausage gets made, but eventually whatever gets put on the dinner table, that is what we are going to do. So it's kind of the way our county has worked and our citizens together to get through this, to have a very low infection rate, low hospitalization, and still knocking on wood, no deaths. I just returned from the last mass vaccination clinic put on by the Lopez Island Pharmacy about 10 minutes ago. And as my seatmate, Christine Minnie said on Tuesday, it really reminds you why you live here. So I want to thank all the volunteers who made all the clinics work. And what we're looking at with the new amount of money coming in, because you asked if I'd address that, is some of the pandemic really pointed out a gaps in just even county organization in our broadband and internet. So we're going to be addressed. That is one of the ideas. We're still meeting as a council to come up with exactly how we're going to do these things, but I'm throwing out some of the ideas that have come up. We also have to look at what is other organizations are looking at, which is a brand new way of what the workplace looks like. People who would prefer to keep working from home or only come into the office a couple days a week and how that will look. Also, we need to try to put in some centralized services desks. And then we also have to deal with policy more than an expense, or it could be an expense, is how we deal with people who have still chosen not to get vaccinated and are in the workplace, and if it's going to be an issue and how to deal with it. We're also trying to work closely with our nonprofits who we've been working with through the initial CARES money, mainly like our family resource centers, who were one of the main delivery people for rental assistance and food assistance. Our EDC used the CARES money to get out business grants, and they even kind of tried to set up a revolving loan fund. And we know that through the new act, that some of these things are going to be going directly to those organizations. So we're trying to make sure we aren't redundant in what we're doing, but getting all the bases covered. And the one thing we are looking for, and I think all counties are looking for, is Treasury guidance. And that's one thing that would be a big help, is to get Treasury guidance so we aren't spending money that we've misused it for how the federal government wants it used. And lastly on this, I would just like to say that as we learn through this pandemic, we are very happy that it's a direct allocation. The CARES money took way too long to roll out to jurisdictions and too short a time to use it. And I think this program is much better because it's going direct and we have longer to use it, so that we can do some of those improvements you're talking about.
That's great. Can I just underscore two things? One, about the flexibility. You're absolutely right on. Early in the CARES Act, what we heard back from you and other local electeds is one, the dollars that we are getting getting were tied only to COVID-19 relief, very specific. You still found ways to be flexible in that by using it for instance, small business grants. But the other thing was you didn't get a direct allocation. The money that San Juan County got went to the state first, and the state allocated money to local jurisdictions. This time around, we were able to make it a direct allocation to San Juan County and to other counties and cities, so they could use these dollars, and they have a lot more flexibility. The second thing I wanted to score, I just really appreciate you mentioning volunteers as well. I've been able to visit vaccine clinics and test sites as well before, and people are showing up to volunteer. And I don't know if there's been a shortage of volunteers. It sure doesn't seem so. People in our communities have really tried to step up and find ways to help our communities. And as your council member partner said, this is why you live there. This is what makes San Juan County, because people do show up to help out, and that's really really wonderful to hear. And again, we're not at the end of it yet, but it's good to hear that there's still a lot of people focused on getting us to the end of this pandemic. I've got a few questions for you. I want to though first point out my first public service announcement today has to do with the Small Business Administration's Restaurant Revitalization Fund. And I'm sure there's a few restaurants in San Juan County that would be interested in this. So the Small Business Administration's Restaurant Revitalization Fund application portal opened last Monday at 9 a.m. The fund provides emergency assistance for eligible restaurants, bars, and other qualifying businesses impacted by COVID-19. And so for an application checklist, a user guide, all that information, you can visit this here, get my directions right, sba.gov/restaurants, and look for the SBA information on the SBA Restaurant Revitalization Fund. We really want to help people out in our restaurants who've been a great part of the tourism industry. And I want to turn to that question about the tourism industry, Jamie. San Juan County, it really depends upon tourism. Last summer, I know, was really tough for you all there in the islands. Do you have an idea? Do you have a projection? Are you seeing inklings of some return to the tourism economy as we come upon summer?
Yes, things are looking up. Like our sales tax receipts is one way we can look at things, and those are tracking pretty strong for this time of year. It's kind of hard to tell because we're also having a construction boom. People who decided to live in their second homes now and are doing improvements, or people who have decided that they truly can do remote work and are building. So that sales tax might not be as much tourism as it is lumber and hardware. But we are looking forward to it. I know that a lot of the restaurants are really hoping that things level off some more so that they can open up fully. I think a lot of people in the county with our high vaccination rate are feeling pretty good about that. And I still think with the restrictions in Canada and probably restrictions elsewhere, that we are, just like last summer, going to see people who want to get outdoors. And I think it will be a positive effect.
Yeah. What are you are you hearing from small business owners and others? Do they feel better? What impacts of the pandemic still linger in San Juan County?
Well, we still, a lot of our restaurants still aren't even open at 50% of tables. They're just continuing to do takeout or grab and go. And I think in some cases, the closer, it's now May, the closer we get to the summer. I've talked to a couple of restaurants that it's like, are you going to open up if you can? And they're like, well, we're not sure, because they have to hire staff for a limited amount of time. And once you get to a certain point during the season, it's not worth it. It's not worth it to the employee or to the owners. A lot of our businesses, particularly in things like restaurants and hospitality, have shifted their model, their business model somewhat. And it's gotten them through, and in some cases it's been very successful. So, they're still kind of wary about how they're going to proceed. They're not, I don't think it's as much as like last year where we thought it was going to be a 3-month pandemic and they were all ready to go.
Yeah.
It's a little more wary and thinking a lot harder about it.
Yeah. Well, it wouldn't be a conversation with the San Juan County Council member without asking about ferry service. And it's vital. Ferry service is vital for residents of and visitors of San Juan County. Looking at the numbers relative to year to date, the inter-island ferry service is strong, moving between islands. The Anacortes to San Juan Islands ferry, relative to last year, not as strong, but in the northwest corner, ferry service is generally stronger than, say, Seattle or farther south, the Vashon-Fauntleroy runs. But still, there's an impact. Can you talk a little bit about the pandemic's impact on ferry service and that lifeline for the county?
Well, I would say that the ferry service has been under a pandemic for about the last 15 years. And
a metaphor?
Capital construction.
Yeah.
So, I mean, one of those things that's impacted us a lot is today's the last day of the winter schedule, and the winter schedule is severely limited, both in number of boats and runs, and also some of those larger boats are getting their annual servicing during the winter, so we're running smaller boats. And they've had difficulty with some of their staffing before the vaccines came out. I think one of the biggest impacts to residents here has been the continual late ferries. Sometimes by midday, they're up to an hour and a half late, certain boats. That makes it, and you combine that with people who are now, who at least for the past year or so, are living in those second homes full time. That adds to the amount of traffic to get to the mainland for doctor's appointments and other things. And it's a lot of people have contacted us as council members, saying, I can't make a doctor's appointment, or if I make a doctor's appointment, there's a good chance I'm going to have to cancel it because either they get overloaded on the ferry or the ferry's so late they have to cancel. Also, it's already been announced that another boat went down, so they're going to be trying to get through this summer system-wide with fewer boats than the lowest amount they've ever tried to get through.
Yeah, and this doesn't even include reintroducing or bringing back the Anacortes to Sydney run.
Right.
So that's still on hold. Yeah. So the spring schedule. How long have you been on winter schedule? Like through the winter, but like last summer you were on winter schedule.
Yeah, it's been over a year we've been on the winter schedule.
Yeah, right.
Because we were on the winter schedule, it never went off, and we never had a spring schedule this year. So it's going directly from winter into a modified summer schedule.
It's really a challenge because if you have a second home, you may have a different, you may rely on the ferry, but maybe you necessarily don't have to rely on the ferry to get from the mainland to the island.
Right.
Maybe you can fly, maybe a boat, friend's boat, your own boat. So there's an access and equity issue as well as a result, especially hitting you all on the San Juan.
Right.
And on that point, I want to go do my second PSA because it's really about, it really relates to this access and equity issue. And just a point about the San Juan Rental Assistance Program is available again to San Juan County residents. And I think that's run through the Opportunity Council out of Whatcom County, but they run it for San Juan County. You can call it assistance line and leave a voicemail for a callback. And that number is 360-734-5121, extension 308, or you can apply online to opp.co, I'm sorry, oppco.org/San Juan rental assistant tenant, and that is up on the board behind me. And you can call 800-649-5121 if you need assistance with other resources. I bring this up because it was in the news this week. A federal judge threw out the Centers for Disease Control determination to establish that eviction moratorium based on public health reasons. The federal judge threw that out, then stayed the decision to give the administration a chance to appeal it. But one number is that 10 million people could be evicted if this moratorium is lifted. And I wanted to kind of bring that home a little bit for San Juan County, which has always had a challenging affordable housing issue. Have you looked at the rental assistance? Have you looked at what the eviction moratorium lifting might mean on the island? Does it make it worse, or does it just add one more layer of problems on what is already a tough affordable housing issue on the island?
Well, since we're kind of we're in that transition stage between people getting vaccinated, businesses opening up, and people being able to find childcare, or even schools are not necessarily totally full time yet. So that part of childcare, so that rental assistance is still needed. We, as a county, we looked at it early, and so some of our normal rental assistance that might be kind of parsed out to the various organizations over the course of a year. We were hoping, and all the indicators pointed that the federal government would be helping out as part of the larger recovery package. So we went ahead and front loaded our organizations with the money that they would get anyway over the course of the year to get them through the first quarter of the year. And now with the additional funding, we have been monitoring them closely to find out if they have enough and what they need. People are still being added to the list. There are more people now than there were last year at this time that are requiring rental assistance. I have not heard of, and I'm not saying that hasn't happened, but I have not heard of anyone getting evicted. I think either with rental assistance or landlords trying to work with the tenants somehow. I have not heard of a nightmare situation where people have gone back to work and are just sitting on their rent.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's good news. Like, this is one of those areas of as part of the American Rescue Plan, and sort of implementation is rolling, it's ongoing. If you hear anything, call our office, and the good folks at Whatcom Opportunity Council who run this rental program are doing a great job as well for your county and in Whatcom County. But if you all hear anything there on the islands, let us know too.
Okay.
There's a way we can help on that. We talked a little bit about the aid coming from the American Rescue Plan, and now we're shifting gears a little bit for the next thing we're working on in Congress, which is the American Jobs Plan. We've gone from ARP to AJP, and the American Families Plan, AFP, which is sort of focused on childcare and helping the social services, that critical infrastructure to support families and communities. One of the jobs plan that's focused on the infrastructure side of things. Just a quick commercial for me and my office. We want to see the jobs plan passed because it is a major investment, an FDR-like investment in our nation's infrastructure, our roads, bridges, highways, our transit, our ferry system, for instance. But we have a chance to make that investment so that we end up with a cleaner and greener transportation system. And my focus has been on transit agencies, Whatcom Transit, Everett Transit, as for instance, are shifting their fleets to electric fleets away from diesel fleets. So pulling that carbon emissions out of the transit system is a big deal. Also, the ferries, the state is looking at buying hybrid ferries and building a new class over time of electric ferries. So we're looking at ways to help the state make that transition. So we're pulling, again, carbon emissions out of the state's ferry system as one way to contribute to decreasing the impacts of transportation on the climate. We're also looking at coastal resiliency and resilient green infrastructure. Way to think about that is estuary restoration, habitat restoration in the Salish Sea and other areas, certainly at the deltas, the estuaries, at the mouth of the river systems that we have here. So we're all focused on that. We want to let you know we're working on those issues. Long lead into what I wanted to get to though is we get to do earmarks again. And so two of the projects that we're submitting for earmarks, and there's no guarantee. One is the multimodal trail from Friday Harbor to Zylstra Lake, which is a county road trail, and the other is McKay Harbor, McKay Water District there, because the road out towards the lime kiln is falling down and the pipes are falling into the water. We don't want to just let it fall. We want to clean it up and get it out. So we've submitted those projects for San Juan County to help you address some of those issues. Long lead to my question is I want you to kind of give a commercial on or talk about the road relocation in at McKay Harbor and what that's going to mean for access to the National Monument, San Juan National Monument.
So I think this there's probably 4 different projects there that are all going on, and they're all intertwined, and they all sum up what you were just talking about, a new greener infrastructure. And I'll just give a brief description for those who are listening. We have a road at the south end of Lopez that dead ends, and then it goes into a private road, and that is the access to Iceberg Point in the San Juan Islands National Monument, one of the most visited places in the National Monument or in the islands, period. Parking for that has been used a San Juan County parking lot and walk up the street. And it's right, the location of the park, and the road is along the beach and the park is next to the road. So over time and climate change, and with the increase in the severity of storms, the bank has continued to wash out. And so right now we've got a federal lands access grant that is providing the plan for our managed retreat from the sea to relocate the road access to the San Juan County Park and in turn to the National Monument. Recently, we tweaked the plan to make it even further away from the banks on a longer stretch, and federal highways agreed, and pretty much 2.5 times the project, which is wonderful. But in conjunction of that, we also have a salmon recovery grant to restore habitat along another stretch of the bank that's right below the road. So that is more infrastructure, and it's in the planning, it's getting ready for construction. As well as what Congressman Larsen just said, is there's also a major water company's pipeline that, like a lot of utilities, use the roadway right-of-way to run their pipes. And after this winter, if you're down on the beach, you can see the pipe is exposed.
You can actually see the pipes. You're not supposed to see the pipes, people. I don't know if you're aware of it. You're not supposed to see these things.
Not supposed to see the pipe. And it's a large water system. And like most of our infrastructure in the islands or in a lot of rural places, it's probably 40 years old and is in need of repair anyway, but now it's in need of being relocated along with the road. So those are the type projects. They're going to be cleaner, greener, and accomplish things like habitat restoration for juvenile salmonids.
Yeah, that's great. Access to recreational areas, another benefit as well, infrastructure, and importantly, jobs. probably for, I don't know, for San Juan folks, but certainly for Northwest folks who will be doing the work for you all. You want to be my guest.
And that multimodal trail is just an incredible project to, well, A, it's multimodal, and B, it goes all the way from the town of Friday Harbor to Zylstra Lake. And that will be jobs. It's a huge project to pull off. But at least most of the land has already been acquired, or we can get to, or has been preserved for something like that. And that will be access to recreation, things that the county and the Preservation Trust have worked hard to preserve. People now have access to them.
Yeah, for those who don't know, how long is that stretch of road? About?
I think it's about 5.5 miles.
Yeah, I was going to say about 5 miles.
Yeah.
When we say multimodal, I guess, you know, we won't talk infrastructure talk. What we're just saying is separate bike paths, so that bikers can feel safe on that stretch of road. It's a county road, 2 lanes, no shoulders currently, and bikes and vehicles share the road, but that's not necessarily the best approach in this regard. So yeah, we're really happy to be able to support those projects. No promises, right? We just, it's a process now that's been submitted, and we're going to work hard to get these on the top of the list in the final bill. So we'll do our part on that.
Could I ask you a question along that line?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, there's another package that is a not an earmark, but a strictly infrastructure package. And what I've had people inquire about is, you know, we don't have federal highways here, and we don't even really have any state roads in our county. But we do have a lot of infrastructure that, again, like I said, is 40+ years old and is in need of repair or replacement. And I particularly would like to hone in on our water systems as well as our sewer systems. And I'm hoping, you know, you get the little tidbits through the news, but I'm hoping that those things are going to be considered infrastructure, because those are the things that are important to, you know, allowing our communities to survive. They do provide jobs and materials and all the same things that a federal highway project would.
Yeah, and thanks for bringing that up, Jamie, because there are different ways to look at infrastructure, but we tend to think, people maybe tend to think roads, bridges, highways, transit, but infrastructure is also your wastewater infrastructure, you know, the sewer plants, you know, that's infrastructure. Clean water systems, the way you pull water out of the wells or out of the rivers, clean it and then send it to homes, that's infrastructure as well. Then there's different ways to fund it, and I won't get too much in the weeds for the folks watching and listening in, but different ways. The Department of Agriculture has a rural water grants and rural wastewater grants. So I know the town of Blaine used some grants and loans combined to redo their wastewater facility a few years back. Just as a for instance, we've helped local water districts in the past access rural development grants from the Department of Agriculture for water pipelines for delivery from source to the distribution. So there, it's not just looking at, say, the clean water programs that are part of the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. For a place like San Juan, the Department of Agriculture's rural development programs might be a better fit because you're a rural county. The city of Friday Harbor might have a little different look on that because it's actually incorporated as a city. But combined, you know, sometimes you have to combine these dollars along with local ratepayers, as usual, in order to make the project happen. So my advice is define specifically what you need, so we can then in our office help target requests from you all.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Well, we're about a little after sorry, what time? 1:30. I got all sorts of clocks here in this place. Well, after 1:30. Jamie, do you have any other questions for me?
No, that was the main one I want to ask, and you've already hit the other question, which was kind of the difference in some of these programs that we hear about as council members, but we also hear other people here on the news, and just like what's the difference and where are they in the process?
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for taking time today. I know that as a local elected official, you value, you always value your time and you value your own time with your constituents. But even on Saturdays, you're out there at a mass vaccination clinic, checking in on people, checking in on volunteers, and then you spend some time with me today. I appreciate your service to Lopez Island, where you live, as well as to San Juan County that you get to represent. So thanks for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you again for inviting me. And like I said, our success in this whole pandemic has been due to our staff who are exhausted, and many volunteers, and really the cooperation of all the citizens of San Juan County.
Yeah, great. Well, good. Well, hopefully I'll get a chance to see everybody live. Any word on the East Sound Parade?
I don't know. I haven't really heard on the Lopez Parade either. But
All right. Well, I just might try to find an excuse to get up there anyway.
Yeah.
I may be up there in the next couple of weeks to meet with Opalco to talk about resource adequacy and energy imbalance markets. Very exciting topics that you have to deal with when you're a member of Congress. So, well, thanks for joining me, Jamie. And please, everyone, continue to follow my social media pages for updates on the American Rescue Plan. And if you need help with any federal agency, you can always call my office at 425-252-3188. And if you know anyone who is unable to watch today's Facebook Live and they want to, a recording will be posted on my social media pages very soon. So thank you all for joining. I look forward to seeing you in person at town halls and community coffees in the future when we can. Meanwhile, get vaccinated if you haven't been vaccinated. It really is up to you. If you've been vaccinated and your friends haven't, please communicate to your friends just how important it is to help us all move forward if they take their individual action. Wear masks, and as well, keep practicing good social distancing practices. With that, thanks a lot for listening in and watching today. See you later.